It's not just if you're taking the bike out of the garage for the first time in ages, or indeed if you are lucky enough to be throwing your leg over a brand new bike. No, there are a few key safety checks which you should perform periodically on your bike before you head out on your ride. You never know, it might just save your skin. So coming up are GCN suggestions for exactly that if you're new to the world of cycling. The first and most obvious thing to check is your tyre pressure. Now, when you've been into cycling for a short while, you will soon get used to what it feels like to have the correct pressure in your tyres. And at that point, it's just a case of pressing down with your thumb and making sure that there's enough air in them. In fact, I could do with some here in my rear tyre. Now, it might be that your inner tubes are just leaking a little bit of air over time. That's perfectly normal. You might have a slow puncture. Either way, it's a very easy thing to remedy. If it's the latter, it's just a case of fixing the inner tube or replacing it. And if it's the former, all you've got to do is pump it up. Another really quick and easy thing to check is that your quick releases are tight. Now, there's no real reason for them to rattle loose over time, but I tend to do this before every ride just for my own peace of mind. These are kind of spin stick style, so all I need to do is turn them to make sure that they are tight. If you've got the fairly standard style quick releases, it's just a case of making sure there's enough pressure that you feel when you are closing the lever shut. So those two things I do before every ride. Coming up are a few things I do a little bit less often. And the first of those things is the brakes. So first up, I lift the front of the bike up, give the wheel a spin, and do the same at the back, just to make sure that the pads aren't rubbing against the braking surface. If they are, there could be a number of reasons. It might just be that the caliper is askew. That wouldn't be the case here because they are self-centering on these SRAM calipers. But for some calipers, they can be rotated either side. So just make sure that the rim is in the middle of the brake pads. It might be that you have a buckled wheel. If that is the situation, what you'll find is it's rubbing on certain parts of the wheel revolution, and you're probably going to need to take it to your local bike shop to be sorted. Or you might have some friction entering the cables in the brakes, in which case the calipers won't be springing out quite as far as they need to. Again, you could try doing that yourself with the help of our videos, or it might just be a case of taking it to your bike shop to sort out. And finally, if the pads have worn down a bit, but there's still a safe amount of compound left there, or indeed if the cables have stretched, what you might find is that you're pulling your brake lever back pretty much to the bars before they're starting to engage. If that gets any worse, that's going to be very dangerous because your brakes are not going to engage at all because the bar's in the way. Again, a very simple thing to remedy. First of all, you can try undoing the barrel adjuster here. That in effect tightens the cable and moves the pads closer to the rim surface. Or if that's not enough, or the barrel adjuster is already wound out, you can just reset the barrel adjuster by winding it all the way in. And then it's just a case of undoing the cable crimp bolt here, pulling the inner cable through and tying it back up. Next up, every so often, I will check a few of the key bolts on the bike to make sure they are at the correct torque. And on that subject, we always recommend using a torque wrench, especially if you are using carbon parts. Now, you can use one like this, but I particularly like this nice simple design from our friends at Park Tools. With this one, you simply select the torque that you want by turning this, and I'm going to leave it on 5.5. You will see written on your stem should be a number with N/M written next to it. That is Newton meters. Always remember that is the maximum suggested torque. On here it's written 6 Newton meters, so I've set this to 5.5. It's just a case of turning it till it cracks like that. Do the same on the other side. That's fine. Then do the same up here on the bolts by the handlebars, one at a time. Then if you've got a little bit more time, another good one to check is the saddle rails bolt here. You even see professionals from time to time whose saddles come off in the middle of a race, which is obviously not what you want to happen. You can also check your pedals as well. And finally, one thing that a lot of people forget to check are the bolts that hold the cleats onto your shoes, and they can rattle loose over time. Again, not something that you want to happen out on the ride, because what you can find is that you can't get your shoe disengaged from the pedal. The headset is another part of your bike which can need some attention from time to time. Firstly, pick up the front end of your bike, turn the steering from side to side and just check that it moves freely and it also feels smooth as well. The headsets are another part which can rattle loose over time. I've deliberately loosened this headset for an example here. If you're outside, you can just drop it on the floor. The matting that we've got here in the workshop has dampened that slightly, so you can't really hear it. But if I just hold the front brake on, rattle it forwards and backwards, you can hear that. Or if you cup your hand around the headset cup at the top here, you'll be able to feel it as well. Once again, that's a very easy job to do, tightening up your headset. All you've got to do is loosen the stem bolts and tighten the top cap here, and I will link to a video which goes into more detail at the end of this video. So those are all of our pre-ride safety checks. However, here's one more small tip for you, something which I always forget to do but often wish that I'd remembered. Before you go out for your ride, pick your bike up and just turn the pedals. Can you hear that? That is a dry chain from where I was out on a very wet ride yesterday. That means that this chain needs some lubrication. There's nothing worse than getting a couple of kilometers down the road and realizing that unless you turn back, you're going to have a very squeaky ride. So I do tend to do that now before I head out. So those are ours, as I said. If you've got any of your own checks that you do meticulously before each and every ride, we'd love to hear about those. Or even if you're superstitious about something, you can let us know as ever in the comment section just down below. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Global Cycling Network, it is free to do so. You'll see a globe on your screen somewhere now. Just click on that. And then over on the left-hand side of me just now are a couple of videos which I talked about earlier. First of all, just up there is how to replace your brake blocks, and the one in that corner down there is how to tighten your headset.